Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers, sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from beautiful Swampy Man in South Florida. And today's date is Monday, May 27th, 2019. So let us begin. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and wishing everyone here a happy Memorial Day. Pay homage to the folks that passed for serving the wars. May their souls be forever free. So I'm just going to be a little bit mellowed out here. So warm outside, pretty hot, I consider to be exact. And you hear some chatter in the background on that downtown saloon, located at 10 South New River Drive East, in the heart of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, along New River to be exact, not far from the courthouse. Pretty quiet today, so hopefully all you folks there will pay homage to the fallen ones. Even some of the wars we're not fond of, to be very sincere. I'm not here to be critical at this time in this particular area. So I'm going to be talking a few things. I'm just a little bit mellow, so sorry about that. And I said, what the hell? I'm going to just make this happen. This just came from truthdig.com. Came out today, to be exact. It was by Alan McLeod. It's entitled, "The Mass Media is Poisoning Us with Hate." It's a pretty cool, interesting synopsis here. And those it reads here: in the manufactured consent, the political economy of the mass media, published in 1988, Edward S. Herman and Noam Chomsky expose the techniques that the commercial media use to promote and defend economic, social, and political agendas of the ruling elites. These techniques included portraying victims as either worthy or unworthy of sympathy. Catholic priests such as Jerzy Popieluszko, for example, murdered by communist regime in Poland in 1984, was defied before Catholic missionaries were raped and murdered in 1980 in El Salvador by U.S.-backed death squads were slandered as fellow travelers of the Marxist rebel movement. The techniques also included both narrowing the debate in a way a buttress elite consensus and intentionally failing to challenge the intentions of the ruling elites or the actual structures of power. Manufacturing Consent was published on the eve of three revolutions that have dramatically transformed the news industry: the rise of right-wing radio and Fox-style TV news that abandoned the media false objectivity, the introduction of 24-hour cable news stations, and the creation of internet platforms owned by a handful of corporations that control the distribution of news and information and mine our personal data on behalf of advertisers, political campaigns, and the government. The sins of the old media, bad though they were, are nothing compared with the sins of the new media. Mass media has degenerated into not only a purveyor of gossip, conspiracy theories, and salacious entertainment, but almost ominously a purveyor of hate. Matt Taibbi, the author of Hate Inc., How and Why the Media Makes Us Hate One Another, has dissected a modern media platform in much the same way that Herman and Chomsky did the old media. The new media, Taibbi points out, still manufactures consent, but it does so by setting a group against group, a consumer version of what George Orwell in his novel 1984 called the 2 minutes hate. Our opinions and prejudices are skillfully catered and to reinforce with the aid of the detailed digital analysis of our proclivities and habits and then sold back to us. The result, Taby writes, is packaged anger just for you. The public is unable to speak across the manufactured divide. It is mesmerized by the fake descent of the culture wars and competing conspiracy theories. Politics under the assault has atrophied into a tawdry reality show centered on political personalities. Civic discourse is defined by invective and insulting remarks on the internet. Yeah, you go to Twitter, you'd be surprised. I got mustering a few times. You're so pathetic. You know, you need to read a book or take a course. It's like, I don't know anything. The power, meanwhile, is left unexamined and unchallenged. The result is political impotence among the populace. The moral swamp is not only a fertile place for demagogues such as Donald Trump, a curation of this media burlesque, but channels misplaced rage, intolerance, and animosity toward those defined as eternal enemies. Of course, mind control 101 at its finest, my friends. The old media sold itself objective, although, as Taby points out, there was more a reflection of tone rather than content. This vaunted objectivity and impartiality was, at its core, an element of a commercial tactic designed to reach the largest numbers of viewers or readers. Objectivity was when I was told I couldn't write with voice. Taby told me when I interviewed him on my television show on Contact. There's an interview that links in this as well. Here's a quote: I couldn't write with your point of view. Objectivity was to write in a dull, flat, third-person perspective. Don't express yourself. Don't be too colorful. This actually was, if you pick up the New York Times today in that same writing style, the original idea behind it is you didn't want to turn off people on the start because they're trying to reach the widest possible audience. It's also infected radio, television, and that's why you have this Tom Brokaw, Dan Rather style delivery, which is a monotonal, flat, unopinionated. Yeah, it's like, yeah, right now on NPR, just to give you an example. That's why they say a lot of people thought this was some kind of ethical decision that news organizations were making. In fact, what they were trying to do is reach the greatest number of people to sell the greatest number of ads. That's how we developed that idea. The old media rigidly held to the fiction that were only two kinds of political opinions, those expressed by the Democrats and those expressed by the Republicans. All hail to the mainstream factions, right? These two positions swiftly devolved into caricatures on radio and television. The classic example was show Crossfire, in which two antagonistic, the stereotypical liberal and the stereotypical conservative, could never agree. The liberal, Taby pointed out, was always cast as the person who couldn't punch back. He was always in retreat. The conservative was always in attack mode, a personnel like Tucker Carlson. These staged and choreographed confrontations were in essence sporting events. If you watch Sunday's NFL Countdown, you'll see sets of design exactly the same as that of Crossfire. The anchor on one side, there's usually 4 commentators, 2 that represent each team. They have graphics that tell you what the score is, who is ahead, and who is behind. We want the people to perceive politics as something that they have a rooting interest in. There's no possibility of any gray area in any of this. All right, it's like your political identity can't possibly bleed into any other political identity. You're on one team or another. Yes, you're with us or with the terrorists. Very similar, right? That's it. We don't even acknowledge the existence of people who have different types of ideas. For instance, anti-abortion, but also pro-union. Whatever it is that doesn't exist in the media. The fact that on big issues, the 2 major political parties are in agreement is ignored. Deregulation of financial industry, the militarization of police, the explosion in the prison population, deindustrialization, austerity, the endless wars in the Middle East, the bloated military budget, the control of elections and mass media by corporations, and the wholesale surveillance of the population by the government all have bipartisan support. For this reason, they are almost never discussed. Ain't that true? People want to know about, Trump this, Trump that, but they forget the other areas. Great distraction, and people a lot of folks get caught hook, line, and sinker. It's always presented as two parties that are always in disagreement about everything, Teddy said, which is not true. We, the members of the press, are not focusing on the timeless, permanent nature of how the system works. He said, we don't think about the central bank, we don't think about the security state, we don't think about that stuff. We focus on personalities. Donald Trump versus Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It's like Huey and Dewey, right? That simplifies everything and allow us not to look at the bigger picture. Yes, face value, no fine print, no observations. Once the old media model imploded with the arrival of 24 hours of news networks, Fox-style news and the internet, the monopoly of a few dominant newspapers and networks ended. In the new setting, media organizations tailors their content to focus on specific demographics. Exactly. You're in this group, that group, you're this person, that person, because we say so. MSNBC, which has gone through some interesting changes over the years, markets itself as a far left-leaning network, Tabi said, but was also intensely pro-war in 2002. That it had to uninvite Jesse Ventura and Phil Donahue from the network. The latest thing was Russiagate and the constant hyping of the narrative. If you watch, you might learn any minute that we, along with Robert Mueller, are going to take down the president. Of course, it's that great manifestation. I hate Trump so much, the Russians were involved in the elections. I don't care what the facts are. I don't want the whole thing. Russia was responsible. The media model not only set demographics against demographics, it mutes and destroys investigations into corporate systems of oppression and genuine dissent. That's a good point. Great pointers here. You don't have to make the news up for these people. Tabi said of the process of creating carving up the public. You can pick stories and that they're going to like. You start feeding them content that's going to ratify their belief systems. Fox did it first. They did it well. They started to make money. They were number one for a long time, but this started to bleed into the rest of the business. Pretty soon, everybody was doing the same thing. It didn't matter. That's right. It didn't matter at all. So I'm going to say, yeah, okay, cool. Fox did it first. They did well. They started making money. They were number one for a long time, but this started to bleed into the rest of the business. Pretty soon, everybody was doing the same thing. It didn't matter whether you were the food channel tailoring content for people who like food, or MSNBC who tailored content for people who learned in a certain political direction. You were giving people stuff they wanted to hear. Yeah, manifestation. This is the name of the game. Previously, you were looking at the illusion of debate. Tabi said of the old media model, would you see people arguing on Crossfire on op-ed pages that were people who disgrace with each other? Now, most people's news consumption experience is tailored entirely to their preferences. You're only reading media that tailored to your particular belief system. You're not being exposed to other ideas. It's going to be progressively more vituperative. Oh, yes, indeed. One of the first stories they taught the news business You can actually sell anger as a product, was the Monica Lewinsky scandal, Tybee said. You could add Charlottesville as well. MSNBC built its brand and its audience relentlessly, warning of the presidency of Bill Clinton was in mortal peril during the Lewinsky investigation. It's repeated this format by spending 2 years of hyping a story of supposed Russian collusion with the Trump administration. What they are trying to do was basically create the impression that a new Watergate was going on. You better tune in because any moment this could go all kaput, Tybee said of the Lewinsky scandal. They got an enormous market share. Fox added a twist to it. Fox took the same concept openly and villainized the characters. They decided to make Bill and Hillary into caricatures and cartoon figures, aging hippies. They kept running clip after clip of Hillary Clinton talking about how she didn't bake cookies. They knew their audience was going to react to all these images in a certain way. They sold people stories that make them angry. They told them, if you keep tuning in, somehow you are part of the process. You are part of this ongoing prostitution of this cultural enemy that we are showing you. We tell you about somebody you don't like. We keep telling you about it over and over to dominate the ratings. The result, Tybee argues, is a marketing strategy that fosters addictive and aggressive behavior. The more habits readers and viewers of the internet and electronic devices are tracked, the more addiction and aggression are fed. Exactly. That's the way we look at that. This creates more pockets of political rancor. He went on, it creates masses of media customers who have been trained to only see one direction, as they have been pulled through this history of a railroad track with heads fastened and blinders looking only one way. Even without religious content, just the process of surfing and consuming the news has a lot of the same qualities as other addictions like smoking cigarettes or taking drugs. People get addicted to the feel on their phones. They get addicted to the process of turning on screens. You especially get addicted to the idea that you're going to turn on a news program or read an article and it's going to tell you that is going to anger you even more than you were yesterday. The template for news, Tybee writes, is professional wrestling. Wrestling was a commercial formula that they figured out worked incredibly well. Tybee said of the corporate owners and of news outlets, there was simplified mortality play where there was a good guy who called the babyface and the bad guy they called the heel. They relentlessly hyped the bad guy. The heel was more important in wrestling and more popular than the face. Amount they can sell you is a direction correlation to how much people hate the bad guy. You have to have a hateable heel in order to make the formula work. This is how the news works. Reporters, Tybee write in his book, now regularly do the outrage hero finger-pointing routine wherever they are within the mile of Trump. Jim Acosta's confrontation with the president, for instance, seemed pulled straight from the WWE outtakes. Trump's whole presidency has turned into a hero promotion with Bob Mueller in the face role. Trump fits like a glove into the commercial formula of all of this. Tybee said in the interview that's what's fascinating about it. He actually makes more money for MSNBC, CNN, Washington Post, New York Times side than he does for Fox and the Daily Caller. He's a cartoon character who is a perfect hero. You have an utterly simplified political landscape. There are only two ways to be. You're either for this incredibly nauseous figure or you are against him. But Tybee notes, there is a diminishing return as with any addiction, You always have to constantly increase the level of the rhetoric in order to get people to keep coming back. He said, you can't be narrowly incompetent or corrupt. Sooner or later, you have to get to the point where you're saying demagogues, authoritarians, dictators. finally, as Glenn Beck discovered, you have to start calling them Hitler. That got to the point where you're simultaneously calling people Hitler and Stalin. It wasn't just to be Hitler. If you're defining somebody else as that bad, then everything is permissible. He said, we saw this with Russiagate. The same sort of liberal commentators who ages ago would have been very concerned about things such as the collapse of attorney-client privilege or the FISA program. Any of that stuff. They don't care about it anymore. They just want to get the purse. The shaping of a republic into antagonistic tribes works commercially. It works politically, but is a recipe for social disintegration. Watch competing ethnic groups in the former Yugoslavia seize rival mass media outlets and use them to spew vitriol and hate against the ethnic group they demonize. The poisonous images and rhetoric that were pumped out of their mouth after a month in Yugoslavia led to the savage fratricide. The United States is already plagued by an epidemic of mass shootings, death threats against critics of Trump, including Representative Ilhan Omar, and aborted assassination attempts, including of Trump supporters, mailing of pipe bombs. That's allegedly, to be exact, last year prominent Democrats on CNN in efforts to decapitate the hierarchy of the Democratic Party, as well as terrorize media outlet that is the party's principal propaganda arm. If you're constantly winding up audiences and telling them that all their troubles are a result of this other group that is literally Hitler, and that they are literally Nazis, they are literally Stalin, sooner or later people are going to start picking up weapons and do something crazy, Taliban said. This is why people are correctly upset about Fox News, but they should also be concerned about the other forms of media. The formula is similar across the board. Our system of bubble economics is going to produce some kind of catastrophe, at some point. Taibbi, the author of one of the finest books of the 2008 financial crash, Griftopia, concluded, at which point, if you tell your people enough that their next door neighbor is literally in the league with the Nazis or terrorists or whatever it is. Of course, Fox News pioneered this, going back to the Iraq War. When we were told liberals were terrorist supporters, sooner or later there's going to be violence. The inability of society to agree on a common set of facts means that the media has failed already. It means we're just not reaching people. In this atmosphere, we will never be able to work things out in a civil way. The whole thing is, my friends, this is right out of Edward Bernays' playbook, Propaganda, Public Relations. Get the book, check out the book, in 1928 book. You probably just look for it online. Very obvious. And what's really funny too, because people fall for it. They hear certain buzzwords, they go, ah! You know, they go crazy. PSYOPs at its finest. That's why you have to always look at the fine print. We all jump the gun now and then. I can use that human element, in our lifetime. But when you start realizing the patterns and the repetition, you gotta just sit back and go, wait a minute. Nothing seems to be kosher. This is why you gotta always observe responsibly. Not what these other clowns tell you how to think. That's their goal. Divide and rule. Peasant versus peasant. The Jim Jones syndrome. Politicians are real good at that too. It's the other person's fault. Blame them. Look what happened with the March for Life. Well, blame the NRA and Trump. What happened at Parkland with Marjorie Stoneman Douglas? Witch hunting. Great climax, political climax. For sure. The bottom line is this, friends. Always think before you speak. Read something. Don't get too wound up. Go further on what they're actually telling you. Always observe the broader picture. Trust me. You'll feel a lot better, and there's days you're going to be laughing at these people. Don't let the mass media control you. You control yourselves. You don't need them. That's the fact. Alright, cool. Sorry about that. I'm just gonna... Oops, one moment, my friends. I want to be right back, so stay tuned. Alright, I just gotta do one more here. Let's make this one pretty short. And this one here came from thepersonalliberty.com. And originally was, where is it from? Originally from the Clarkey Washington Bureau. It was written by Emily Cadet. And it's entitled 2020 Democrats Promise New Gun Control. How far can they go? And as it reads, in Washington, Camille Harris and other Democrats running for president have promised aggressive action to stem the nation's epidemic gun violence if they win the White House in 2020. When it comes into restriction gun access, experts say executive action is unlikely to be a significant dent in the problem, and any steps the president takes unilaterally are likely to be embroiled in legal challenges. The reality is it's Congress, not the president, that holds most of the gun policy. The executive branch has limited discretion on guns. University of California, Los Angeles law professor Adam Winkler told McClatchy, former Democratic President Barack Obama looked at all these things and had a list of 20 executive actions. Even with 20 executive actions, it didn't add up to much, said Winkler, an expert in constitutional law. The real takeaway of these campaign promises is how gun control is served as a way to energize Democratic voters. While Democrats can even a decade ago mostly avoided talking about guns, fearing it could alienate swing voters. The party's 2020 presidential campaigns are making a different calculation. Most in the primary field have unveiled proposals to tighten restrictions on guns or made promises to do so on the campaign trail. The latest, former Texas Representative Beto O'Rourke, who penned an op-ed in the Houston Chronicle over the weekend laying out his 4-point plan to stop gun violence. The candidates tend to downplay how much they would rely on Congress to achieve their goals. For an example, much of New Jersey Senator Cory Booker's expansive 2020 gun agenda, including the centerpiece of universal federal gun licensing system, which required Congress to pass legalization. South Bend, Indiana, Pete Buttigieg also recently endorsed the idea. Banning the sale of so-called assault weapons would require a new law. Harris, Booker, O'Rourke, Buttigieg, and have all promised to pursue that goal, as many others in 2020 candidates. Very anti-Roe versus Wade to be exact. Betting that Republicans in Congress will block any gun action, Harris' campaign has zero or in gray areas in existing gun laws that her advisors believe permit the president to tighten restrictions. If Congress is not going to act, and we have no indication that they will, we're going to use absolutely everything in our authority to do much as we can fight back, said Harris campaign spokeswoman Christine Allen. Yes, my magic lamp, please. Bing, psh. Oh, man. Banning AR-15 imports over the past month, the California senator has announced 5 different actions on guns she would take in 2021 if Congress fails to act within the first 100 days of her presidency. Most recently, Harris pledged to prohibit the importation of AR-15 assault weapons. The 1968 Gun Control Act gives the executive branch broad authority to bar gun imports that are not suitable for or readily adaptable for sporting purposes, experts agree. Null and void, of course. Different administrations have had very different interpretations of what falls under the category, said David Koppel, a policy analyst of the Cato Institute, a center-right think tank in Washington, D.C. but legal experts said Harris would have a difficult time following through another pledge to take gun manufacturers and dealers to court for negligence, among other violations. The Harris campaign notes that while a 2005 liability law, the Protection of Commerce and Arms Act, protects gun sellers from a broad array of individual lawsuits, those protections do not apply when the plaintiff is the federal government. The Harris promised her administration would enforce not just federal law, but state and local gun laws as well. So, this is funny because she's going to try to tell, the way you look at this, going to enforce other state and local gun laws? Come on, shut up, Ms. Harris. Suck anyway, yeah? UCLA's Winkler said that there are no expectations to the 2005 law, in which the administration could use to go after some gun makers and sellers who make defective products or violate other existing laws. But overall, the protections are pretty expensive. The very few efforts to hold gun manufacturers liable have been successful, he said. Background checks. As president, Harris would also run into problems enforcing another near-universal background check requirement she promised last month. First-term senator has proposed categories of anyone who sells 5 or more guns per year as a gun dealer for federal licensing purposes, thus triggering a background check on all their gun sales. Very, this more anti-Roe versus Wade. It's just funny how some of these clowns think. But I'm going to continue on here. I don't see how she can possibly do that, said Koppel of the Cato Institute. The key language in the Gun Control Act of 1968 defines a gun dealer as someone engaged in repetitive transactions for the purpose of a profit. A collector sells more than 5 guns in a year, but argued that's not the purpose of profit, he pointed out. Harris would certainly run into a legal challenge, said Koppel, and if the courts was fair, you have to rule against her. Lindsay Nichols, a federal policy director for Giffords Law Center, supports more stringent federal gun policies, but Nichols doubted the federal government could meaningfully alter the existing background check systems without new legislation. We've seen this over and over again. Criminals will take advantage of any loophole that exists in the laws, she said. They'll just steal the damn thing. You don't have to go through these loopholes, most of them. Despite the limits on presidential power, however, Nichols said having a president who is focused on tightening gun laws would represent a notable shift. Just treating gun violence, gun safety as a priority that requires action at the highest level. That is something. Certainly, the current administration is not doing it, Nichols said. She pointed out that the Democratic administration could take some steps without Congress's approval, like shift resources toward programs for gun violence prevention and those affected by gun violence, things that Booker detailed on the agenda. Maybe, the whole Article 1, Section 7, the House holding the purse. The President could also beef up the Department of Justice for Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and encourage it to better coordinate with other federal agencies as well as the state and local governments. The ATF has been doing a lot of the A and T, but not much of the F, Harris joked at a CNN town hall in April. We need to fix that. No, we need to abolish them. They're okay to support murderers. Remember Waco and Ruby Ridge? Just enforcing existing laws requires coordination across different members of the cabinet, different agencies, different departments, and also coordination between federal and state and local governments. Nichols said those are the things that are not happening now. Well, sorry, Senator Harris. You're a null and void to be president of the United States, and you're a proud oath breaker. The reason why I say you're not qualified to be president of the United States because your parents, you are not a natural born citizen, so your position is null and void, just like Ted Cruz, Barack Obama, etc. So give me a break. You're gonna lose, I guarantee you that. And your platform will not prevail. People are waking up on this matter. You have more government dependency programs. A lot of folks do remember Waco and Ruby Ridge, done by the ATF, and plus other things as well. You cannot just go to state with your feds because you gotta get permission from them and talk to the sheriffs. That's right, separation of powers. So, no further ado, it's null and void. All what you're doing, anti-freedom, anti-Roe versus Wade, anti-property, etc. Prove me wrong, Miss Harris, because you're a lawyer doesn't make you smarter than everybody else. All right? Okay, I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share throughout your social media networks. If you have questions, comments, and something that's interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to Quorum. Plus, I will leave my footnotes and social media sites, email addresses on my speaker page. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is something for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love, and may our guardian spirits be with you.